All right, so connection. Christy and I have played around with a lot of different names for this event, and Clarity Connects just kind of rolled off our tongue, and it was fine. And then after a while, I got thinking about how important the word connection is and how many different facets of connection there are. And so I want you guys to really be thinking about what connection means to you as we roll through the day, because I think it's really important. My personal belief is that connection alone can change the world. Connection is hard to define, right? It's everything. It's everywhere. It's everyone. It's love. It's energy. It's feelings. And disconnection is that feeling of, when you get your heart broken, you'd rather be set on fire and it feels so awful. But it's also depression and anxiety. That's disconnection too. And so I really want you to be thinking about those words. The thing about connection that I really discovered through all of this is that connection is a conscious choice. You have to actively think to connect. So just as you learn to walk by walking, you learn to connect by connecting. So I really want you to think about it as an active, conscious choice. There are three big facets to connection. Self, connection to others, and connection with a higher power if you believe in one. My first one I want to talk about is your connection with yourself, because that's number one, always number one. Yesterday I drove to Hornell. You can tell I wrote my speech last night, right? Yesterday I drove to Hornell, and I got there, which is about 40 minutes from my house. I got there and I got out of the car and I had a holy shit moment because I had no clue how I got there. Have you ever been driving and you're like, you get there, you step out of the car and you're like, whoa, I have no recollection of any of that drive. So for 40 minutes I spent obsessing about all of the to-do things I had to do for today's event. And I got out of the car having no memory of getting there. Thank goodness I got there safe. But we do that a lot. We go on autopilot. We go through our days. We wake up, we go to work, we come home, we watch 5 hours of, Keeping Up with the Kardashians or whatever's on. Yeah, Ruth likes that one. She's the fan. And we go to sleep and we repeat, and life is getting monotonous and boring, and we're draining ourselves of life. So I would encourage you to connect with yourself, to live a little bit more on purpose, bring yourself into the now, eliminate the distractions. That's the top priority. The other piece of connecting with yourself is living in your truth. We have this system in society that's set up in terms of you go to school, you go to college, you get married, you have kids, you work a little more, you retire, maybe go to Florida, and then you die. And anybody outside of that system is shamed or a failure or different or wrong, or they're not doing things right. Well, the funny part is that a lot of people who are running that system aren't happy. They're staying in jobs longer than they need to, they're staying in relationships longer than they need to, and they're not living fully. So living in your truth is about going against the grain a little bit. And sometimes that's uncomfortable and it makes us nervous, and we get weird and we think we're failing. But I think the important thing is that we create our own happiness. And sometimes that looks different, but it starts about getting really clear and honest about who you are and what you believe in and what you need and want, and if you're getting it in the places you are. Life is really short. I read a book the other day, and it really talked about this being a terminal sentence. We're born with a terminal sentence that ends soon. We don't know when. And we're wasting a lot of time in the in-between. We're waiting for the, I'll do that when I'm less busy, or when I have more money, or when the kids are grown, or I'm going to do that, when I feel skinnier, or whatever the case might be, whatever your I'll do that when is. Really think about that and really find purpose in that. The other thing that I find is that people limit themselves and they say, I can't do it. I don't have the resources, I don't have the funding, I don't have the whatever. But I'm going to challenge you there too, because a year ago I was in the gym meditating and I had this vision of this event, of what it would look like and how I could give back to the community. And when I got done, I sat up, and I don't know if Bonnie knows this. She's out back, but I don't know if she knows this, but when I finished that meditation, she walked in, and that was the first time I met her. And I kind of said, I'm thinking of doing this event. She goes, oh, I'm a motivational speaker. And here she is a year later, today, speaking right after I am. And so this is important because when you live in your truth, things totally fall into place. And it's very cool how things fall into place. It's like you stop resisting everything else and things just fall into your lap. Most of the people here who are speaking I've met this year. And so living on purpose, living in your truth, connecting to yourself. The second part of that is that you have to connect with others. Have you ever just met somebody and you just click and you spark and you're like, you are my person. You are going to hang out with me and we will be best friends forever. You have this moment, right? That's connection. That's connecting with others. That's a true full search connection. But we limit ourselves in that. I meet a lot of random people, and it's very exciting for me because my job, I also meet a lot of random people outside of my job. But recently I've started meeting people in the sauna. And I think, right, there's nothing more vulnerable than being absolutely disgusting with another person, you know, just dripping in sweat, being absolutely gross. And recently I met a man named Jim. And I used to go into the sauna, just put in my earphones and ignore everybody because I just wanted to be by myself and was having a bad day and I just wanted to listen to music and everybody needed to shut up and leave me alone. And then one day my phone died and I was forced to spend some time with this man named Jim. And he's lovely. If anybody knows him, please don't tell him I'm talking about him. But in that time, I learned a lot about Jim. Jim is in his 60s. He's retired. He has a son who's working overseas to purify water, which is incredible. He has a granddaughter who's in the NICU. She's been in the NICU for about 2 months now. She's really having a hard time with her lungs. He has been married for 46 years, and he is in love with his wife, but they fight all the time, and that's okay, because he's figured it out. You know, he's got it. But he also reminded me of a time without technology. I didn't get to experience that time. I don't remember a time without technology, but he really hammered that in about how people just enjoyed each other, and they enjoyed conversations. And I left that moment with him, first of many. I don't know if he's stalking me or we just have similar schedules, but I left that moment feeling joyful and feeling connected and feeling in the moment and feeling very, very present and thankful for that experience. The details in the stories. The details are in being able to share, being vulnerable, telling your story, and really actively listening to other people's. We've gotten to this mode of like putting in passcodes, right? And we have this, we do this hi, how are you? But we don't really want people to answer. Right? Yeah, you don't want people to tell you. It'd be really awkward if you go to Wegmans and you put your stuff up there and you're like saying to the cashier, hi, how are you, as you're putting your stuff up, and they're like, well, my cat died this morning and my grandma's going in for another back surgery. You would probably think it was really strange, even though you asked the question, right? It's weird. We don't connect with people. So my challenge for you is to listen to people, to make eye contact, to live on purpose within the context of other people. The other thing that we're doing is we're doing a lot of comparing. We're doing a lot of comparisons, and that makes us not like people too, because we're going on Facebook and we're like, ooh, Tammy got a new house. I want a new house. That's bullshit. Tammy's life is way better than mine. Yeah, you've done it. That's why you're laughing, right? But we compare. And the thing that is really important, I really want everybody to hear today, we're doing that comparison. Every single person has something going on. I know that's common knowledge, but I want to remind you, every single person has some part of their life that's not totally working right. Because if they didn't, there would be no purpose for them to be here, because those moments where we're flailing and failing is the moments where we're growing. That gives us an opportunity to really look at things and say, whew, I can do that better. It gives our soul a chance to move forward. The thing that comparing does is it divides us, and the secret really is that we're all in this together. At the end of the day, we're all in this together, we're all connected, we're all rooted, and if we can come together instead of dividing and conquering and falling apart, we'll be better off. So that's the second connection. The third connection, I hesitate. I don't hesitate because I don't believe in it. I hesitate because it's touchy, because it's different for everybody. The third connection is a spiritual connection, or a belief in something bigger. Across all religions, there's a common theme that there is something bigger. And my personal belief is that however you want to use that, you use that. However it works for you, if you pray, if you chant, if you follow a religion, good for you. That's where your connection is. It's the trust and belief that something's bigger. And if you can't believe in any of the above, if you don't believe in source or spirit or universe or God, then believe that you can be a better version of you. Believe that there's something better, something more worth moving towards. I think it relies in... I think it's about trust, right? It's about finding trust. I went to Spring Lake, New Jersey over the summer, and I took my two girls. My husband was on a baseball tournament, so it was just me and the two girls, and I'm like, we are going to the beach because the school starts next week and I need a beach trip. So I literally drove 5 hours for a 24-hour stay at the beach, okay? I know I'm crazy. I did this with a 3 and a 6-year-old. And I got there, and I was so excited about this. And I got there, and there was like this severe storm, right? And I'm sitting there, and there's just this cloud hanging over my head taunting me, like, you thought you were going to the beach, and now it's crappy out. And I'm sitting there resisting. I'm on the beach anyway, because screw it. And I just drove 5 hours with a 3 and 6 year old. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm having these moments of just negativity, right? Of, gosh, this was stupid. How could I have even thought to like drive here and think this would be a good idea? And it's kind of windy and chilly, and the sun isn't even out. And gosh, this is just a representation of my week. I've had a crappy week, and people have disappointed me and let me down. It's a representation of really my life. Okay, everybody's let me down. And so I went into this negative spiral, because you know how it just goes right down. I went to this negative spiral, and then the water started washing up, and I had a moment of, okay, this is kind of magical. Like the ocean itself, how big it is. And underneath the ocean's a whole world, whole aquatic life, right? And they're not running off the government. They don't have a rule book of written down rules of how they have to function. They don't have police officers down there, and everything is going okay. And so if everything's going okay for all the fish, and the fish are just being fish, and the sharks are just being sharks, then why can't things be okay for me? And so I think that's where trust comes into play, okay? If we're living our truth, if we're just a fish and we're trying to just be a fish, if we're just being who we are, our natural state, then things work out. So always come back to that. And I think it's hardest to trust when we are having a hard time. It's hardest to trust that anything has purpose. So what I say is when I'm having a really hard time, I say, you know what? I don't understand this. I don't get it, but it must serve me in some way. It must be helping me grow, and I've got to figure out what that is, because if I'm not moving forward. I'm just staring at it, and I feel helpless, and I hopeless, and I feel like a victim when I'm in that mode. And so, trust. Find whatever way connects you. Connect with yourself, connect with others, and connect with spirit, because at the end, it's all about connection. Thank you.